The bank destroyed my company in 3 days, and I had no idea the woman signing the papers was the same woman I told she would never amount to anything, my ex-wife. I stood in my empty office staring at the frozen account notification, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. 10 years of work gone. Everything I built vanished. And somewhere in a glass tower across the city, Lillian was watching it all burn. The same Lillian I divorced because I said she was too small-minded for my big dreams. The same Lillian I called ordinary. The same Lillian who I threw away like trash. I didn't know she had become one of the most powerful women in Nigerian banking. I didn't know she was the one holding my fate in her hands. And I definitely didn't know that every cruel word I ever said to her was about to come back and destroy me. My name is Nobert, and this is how I lost everything because I was too blind to see the woman I married. It was a Monday morning in Lagos when my world started crashing down. The sun was too bright, the air too thick, like something terrible was coming. I was sitting in my office at Mitchell & Co., the logistics company I spent 10 years building from absolutely nothing, when my phone started ringing. First my accountant called, then my operations manager, then my lawyer. Everyone saying the same terrifying thing: the bank froze every single account we had. No warning, no phone call, no explanation. Just frozen, gone. I called the bank immediately, my heart pounding in my chest like a drum. The woman on the phone spoke in that sweet, polite voice that told me absolutely nothing. "We're conducting a routine review of your business accounts, sir. Standard procedure." But nothing about this felt standard. Banks don't just freeze everything you have unless someone with serious power wants you destroyed. I spent that whole day making phone calls, trying to understand what was happening. My business partner Charles kept saying maybe it was just a mistake, maybe tomorrow everything would be fine. But I knew better. In Nigeria, when a bank moves against you like this, someone powerful is pulling the strings. I just had no idea who. Quick question before we go further. Where are you watching from right now, and what time is it there? Drop a comment below and let me know. And if you're enjoying this, do me a huge favor. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and share this video with someone who loves real stories about real life. Trust me, you need to see how this ends. Tuesday made everything worse. Our suppliers started calling, saying they heard rumors we were in trouble financially. Clients began canceling contracts. It was like watching a house collapse in slow motion. You see every crack forming, every wall breaking, but you can't do anything to stop it. I barely slept that night. My girlfriend Jennifer kept asking what was wrong, but I couldn't even find the words to explain. How do you tell someone your entire life is disappearing and you don't even know why? Wednesday changed everything. An old friend who worked in banking circles called me. His voice was quiet and nervous. "Nobert, you need to stop making noise about this situation. The order to freeze your accounts came from very high up, from someone on the executive board of First Continental Bank." "Who?" I asked, barely able to speak. Long pause. Then he said a name that made my blood turn to ice. "Lillian Obi." I almost dropped my phone. Lillian, my ex-wife Lillian. But that couldn't be right. That made no sense. Lillian was just a junior bank officer when we were married. She worked in some small branch processing loans, coming home exhausted every evening, complaining about her mean boss, about the long hours, about feeling trapped in her career. That Lillian couldn't possibly be on the executive board of one of Nigeria's biggest banks. That Lillian couldn't have this kind of power. "You made a mistake," I told him. "That has to be a different person." "I didn't make a mistake, Nobert. Lillian Obi, Executive Director of Corporate Banking at First Continental. She's been there for a year now. Before that she was Senior Vice President. She's one of the most powerful women in Nigerian banking right now." He hung up. I just sat there staring at the wall, my mind spinning backward through time, trying to make sense of this. When Lillian and I divorced 3 years ago, she was nobody, just a regular woman with a regular boring job. I was the one building something real. I was the one with vision and ambition. She was the one dragging me down with her small dreams and constant worrying about money and our relationship. I remembered our last real conversation before I filed for divorce. We were in our living room and I had just closed a huge deal that would expand my company into 3 new states. I was so excited, talking about the future, about how massive we were going to become. And Lillian just looked at me with those sad, tired eyes and said, "But Norbert, what about us? What about our marriage? You're never home anymore." That made me angry. I told her she didn't understand business. Told her she was thinking too small, too limited. "You're comfortable being ordinary," I remember saying. "But I'm not. I'm building something important here, and if you can't support that, then maybe you should just leave." She went completely silent after that. The kind of silence that feels like something breaking inside a person. 1 week later, I filed the divorce papers. She didn't fight me on it, didn't cry or beg or cause drama. She just signed the papers, packed her things, and left. I remember thinking she was weak for giving up so easily. I remember feeling relieved that I could finally focus completely on my business without her pulling me backward. But now, sitting in my dying office 3 years later, I realized I never knew her at all. I had to see her, had to understand what was happening. So I did something desperate. I went straight to First Continental Bank headquarters. It was this massive glass building in Victoria Island, the kind of place that screams money and serious power. I walked in wearing my best suit, trying to look confident even though my whole world was crumbling around me. I walked up to the reception desk and asked to see Lillian Obi. The receptionist looked at me like I was completely insane. "Do you have an appointment, sir?" "No, but I'm her." I stopped. What was I exactly? Her ex-husband? Would that even mean anything now? "I'm an old friend, please, this is urgent." She picked up the phone, spoke quietly for a moment, then looked up at me with genuine surprise on her face. "She'll see you. 15th floor, office 1501. The elevator ride up felt like it lasted forever. My heart was racing. My hands were sweating. What was I going to say to her? What do you say to the woman you threw away like garbage when you discover she now holds your entire future in her hands? The 15th floor was all shiny marble and glass and quiet power. A secretary walked me down this long hallway to a corner office with Lillian's name on the door in gold letters. Lillian Obi, Executive Director, Corporate Banking. I took a deep breath and walked inside. And there she was. But she wasn't the Lillian I remembered at all. This woman was wearing an expensive navy blue suit that fit her perfectly. Her hair was styled like a magazine cover. Her makeup was subtle but made her look absolutely stunning. She sat behind this enormous desk with the entire city of Lagos spread out behind her through these huge windows. She looked up when I entered and her face showed nothing. No emotion, no recognition, nothing. "Hello, Norbert," she said, her voice calm and cold. I stood there like a complete fool, searching for words that wouldn't come. "Lillian, I had no idea. I didn't know you were here, that you were." "Successful," she finished my sentence, her voice still cold. "No, you wouldn't know. You never bothered to find out what happened to me after you threw me away." She wasn't wrong. After the divorce, I threw myself completely into work. Started dating Jennifer within a few months. Never looked back to see what became of Lillian. I just assumed she was still somewhere processing loans, living her small, meaningless life. "Please sit down," Lillian said, pointing to the chair across from her massive desk. I sat down. My legs felt like water. "I assume you're here about your frozen accounts," she said. "Yes, Lillian, please, I need to understand what's happening. My company is dying. Everything I built." "Everything you built," she repeated slowly, and for the first time I saw something flash across her face. Pain maybe, or anger, hard to tell. "Tell me something, Norbert. Do you remember what you said to me the day you told me you wanted a divorce?" My throat felt tight. "Lillian, that was 3 years ago. We were different people back then. Answer my question." I looked down at my hands, ashamed. I said you were holding me back, that you were too comfortable being ordinary. You said I was small-minded, Lillian added, her voice getting quieter and more dangerous. You said I had no vision, no ambition whatsoever. You said I was the kind of boring person who would work at the same dead-end job for 40 years and die having accomplished absolutely nothing. The words hung in the air between us like poison. I remembered saying them. I remembered believing them when I said them. Do you have any idea what those words did to me? Lillian asked. She stood up slowly and walked over to the huge window, her back turned to me. Do you know what it felt like to have the person who was supposed to love me tell me I was worthless, that my dreams meant nothing, that I was nothing? Lillian, I'm sorry. I was angry and too focused on business and I went home that night and cried for 4 hours straight, she said, cutting me off completely. Then I stopped crying and made a decision. I decided that if you thought I was ordinary, if you thought I was nothing, then I would prove you wrong. Not to win you back. I knew even then that we were finished forever, but to prove it to myself. To prove I wasn't the worthless person you said I was. She turned around to face me and I could see tears forming in her eyes, but she wasn't crying. She was furious. I applied for an international banking program, something I always wanted to do but never had the courage to try because you kept telling me it was a waste of time and money. I got accepted. Spent 18 months in London studying advanced corporate finance and investment banking. When I came back to Nigeria, I didn't go back to my old boring job. I interviewed at First Continental, and they offered me a position as senior relationship manager. I sat there in complete shock as she kept talking. I worked 16-hour days, Norbert. 16 hours. I brought in clients worth billions of naira. I restructured failing corporate accounts and made them profitable again. Within 1 year, they promoted me to assistant vice president, then vice president, then senior vice president. Last year, at 36 years old, I became the youngest executive director in this bank's entire history. She walked back to her desk and sat down, staring straight into my eyes. So no, Norbert, I'm not ordinary. I'm not small-minded. I'm not nothing. But you'll never understand what it cost me to become this person. You'll never know how many nights I worked until I literally couldn't see straight. How many times I wanted to quit but kept pushing because I refused to be the failure you said I would be. I felt sick to my stomach. Lillian, I was so wrong about you. I was completely wrong, but please, my company. Your company came to us 6 months ago asking for a corporate loan, she said, switching back to business mode. 500 million naira to expand your operations. The proposal landed on my desk. I was the one who had to review it. My heart completely stopped. What? I knew it was yours the second I saw the company name. Mitchell & Co. I remember you telling me once that if you ever started a company, you'd name it after your mother's maiden name. So I knew immediately it was you. Why didn't you? Why didn't I approve it? She smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile at all. Oh, Norbert, I did approve it. I personally pushed your loan through the entire approval process myself. I made absolutely sure you got every single naira you asked for. I stared at her, completely confused now. But then why? Because 3 months after you got that loan, my financial analysts discovered something very interesting. Your company was using the money for things that weren't in the approved business plan at all. Risky investments, luxury purchases, a brand new Range Rover for yourself, an expensive apartment in Ikoyi for your girlfriend Jennifer. You were treating a 500 million naira corporate loan like your personal bank account. My face went burning hot. She knew about Jennifer. She knew about everything I'd done. That's fraud, Norbert, Lillian said quietly, each word hitting me like a hammer. When a company takes out a corporate loan under false pretenses and uses the money for completely unapproved purposes, that's called fraud. And when a bank discovers fraud, they have every legal right to freeze all accounts immediately and call in the entire loan. I was going to pay it all back, I said weakly, knowing how pathetic I sounded. With what money? Your company is bleeding cash every single day. Your clients are running away. Your suppliers are demanding payment you can't give them. You spent the loan, Nobert. It's gone. And now you owe us 500 million naira that you have absolutely no way to repay. The room started spinning around me. Lillian, please. There has to be something we can work out. Some kind of payment plan or restructuring or... There is something you can do, she interrupted. You can liquidate your company, sell off all the assets, use whatever money you get to pay back as much of the loan as you possibly can, then declare bankruptcy. That's my entire life, I whispered, feeling tears coming. And what was I? Lillian asked, her voice finally breaking. What was I when you threw me away like trash, when you told me I was nothing? I was your wife, Nobert. I loved you with everything I had. I supported you when you had absolutely nothing. I worked double shifts to help you start your business from zero. I gave up my own dreams so you could chase yours. And the exact moment you started succeeding, you decided I wasn't good enough anymore, that I was holding you back. Tears were running down her face now, but her voice stayed steady and strong. You want to know the worst part of all this? I would have forgiven you. If you'd come to me after the divorce, if you'd said you made a terrible mistake, if you'd shown even a tiny bit of humility or regret, I would have forgiven you completely. But you didn't. You just moved on like I never existed, like our entire marriage meant nothing, like I meant nothing. I felt my own tears starting. I'm sorry, God, Lillian, I'm so incredibly sorry. I know you are, she said softly. But sorry doesn't fix this. Sorry doesn't give me back the 3 years I spent rebuilding myself from the complete wreckage you left behind. Sorry doesn't erase all those nights I cried myself to sleep wondering why I wasn't good enough for you. She pulled out a thick folder from her desk drawer and slid it across to me. This is all the liquidation paperwork. You have 30 days to settle your affairs and close everything down. After that, we start legal proceedings to recover the loan however we can. I picked up the folder with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. Is there really nothing else I can do? Lillian was silent for a very long moment. Then she said, there is one thing. I looked up fast, hope jumping in my chest. Learn from this, she said simply. Learn that people aren't disposable objects. Learn that the person you look down on today might be the person holding your entire future tomorrow. Learn that real success isn't just about money and power. It's about how you treat people when you're climbing up, because you'll definitely meet them again when you're falling down. She stood up, making it clear our meeting was over. I won't completely destroy you, Nobert. I could have called in the loan immediately and had you arrested for fraud right away. But I didn't do that. I'm giving you 30 days to close your company with at least some dignity. That's more grace than you ever showed me. I stood up slowly, feeling ancient. Do you hate me? Lillian looked at me with those same tired eyes I remembered from our marriage, and suddenly I understood what I'd been way too blind to see before. She was never tired because she was weak or ordinary. She was tired because she'd been carrying both of us on her back. No, she said finally. I don't hate you. I'm just sad that you never really saw me. Even now, standing here in this office, seeing everything I've accomplished, you're not proud of me or happy for me. You're just scared for yourself and what you're losing. She was absolutely right. Even in that exact moment, all I could think about was losing my company, not about her journey, not about what she overcame, just about myself. Goodbye, Nobert, Lillian said, turning back to her computer screen. I walked out of that office and took the elevator down in complete shock. When I got to my car in the parking lot, I just sat there staring at nothing. Everything Lillian said kept playing over and over in my mind. Every cruel word I ever spoke to her. Every time I dismissed her dreams as too small. Every single moment I made her feel worthless and ordinary. The next few weeks were absolute hell. I had to tell all my employees they were losing their jobs, had to sell off equipment and furniture and vehicles for almost nothing, had to watch everything I built for 10 years get ripped apart piece by piece. Jennifer left me the second she realized I was broke. My friends stopped answering my calls. All the people who praised me when I was successful suddenly acted like they never knew me. But losing the company and the money and the status wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was realizing that I had something real, someone who truly loved me, who supported me, who believed in me when nobody else did, and I destroyed it because I thought I deserved better. I spent 3 years climbing toward success, never realizing that the person I left behind was climbing even higher and faster. About 2 weeks after the meeting, I was at my now empty office packing the last of my personal things when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. "No, Bert," a woman's voice I didn't recognize at all. "Yes, who's calling?" "My name is Mirabelle. I work at First Continental Bank. Mrs. Obi asked me to call you." My heart jumped into my throat. Is something wrong? "She wanted me to tell you something important. She said to tell you that she's paid off the remaining balance of your loan from her own personal account." I couldn't breathe, literally couldn't breathe. "What are you talking about?" "The 500 million naira you owe the bank. Mrs. Obi has paid it all herself. She said to tell you that you don't owe anything anymore. You're completely free to close your company without any debt hanging over you." "But why would she do that?" "She also said to tell you something else," Mirabelle continued. "She said this isn't forgiveness. This is her final gift to the man she used to love. She's doing what you should have done for her, believing in you even when you absolutely don't deserve it." The call ended. I stood there in my empty office, phone still pressed against my ear, and for the first time in years, I truly broke down crying. Not for my company or my lost success or my damaged pride. I cried for the woman I destroyed with my words and my arrogance. I cried for the marriage I threw away. I cried for the person I had become, someone who measured human worth in money and power instead of love and loyalty. I tried calling Lillian after that. Tried so many times to see her, tried desperately to thank her properly, but she wouldn't take any of my calls. Her secretary told me very politely but very firmly that Mrs. Obi had no wish to speak with me. I wrote her a letter, 20 handwritten pages of apologies and gratitude and regret, but I never knew if she even read it. Eventually, I had to accept a hard truth. Some things, once you break them, can never be fixed. Some people, once you hurt them badly enough, won't give you another chance. And maybe that's exactly right. Maybe that's what I deserved. I rebuilt my life very slowly after that. Not the flashy, ambitious life I had before, but something smaller and much more real. I started a new company, way smaller this time, and I treated my employees like actual human beings instead of disposable tools. I dated again eventually, but I approached relationships completely differently, with humility and genuine appreciation instead of entitlement. I learned to listen way more and talk way less. I learned that real power isn't about how high you can climb, but about how you treat people when you finally reach the top. 1 year later, I was reading the business section of the newspaper when I saw Lillian's photo taking up half the page. She'd been named one of the most powerful women in all of African business. The article talked about her innovative approach to corporate banking, her commitment to supporting small businesses, her charity work helping young women break into finance careers. There was a quote from her that punched me in the chest. "Success means absolutely nothing if you achieve it by stepping on other people. Real power is using your position to lift people up, not tear them down." I cut out that article and kept it in my wallet, not as a reminder of what I lost, but as a reminder of who I wanted to become. Someone who saw people's value before they had to prove themselves. Someone who built others up instead of tearing them down. Someone who understood that the person sleeping next to you in a tiny apartment today might be running a banking empire tomorrow, not because you believed in them, but despite you never believing in them. 2 full years after our meeting in her office, I was at a banking conference. My small company had grown enough that I got invited. I saw Lillian from across the huge room. She was giving a speech about ethical business practices and financial inclusion. She looked absolutely radiant, confident, powerful. Everything she became without me, without my help, without my so-called vision and ambition. After her speech, I gathered all my courage and walked up to her. She saw me coming and didn't walk away, which I took as a good sign. "Hello, Norbert," she said calmly. "Hi, Lillian. That was an amazing speech." "Thank you." We stood there awkwardly for a moment. Then I said, "I never got to properly thank you for what you did, for paying off my loan. You literally saved my life." "I didn't do it for you," she said simply, no emotion in her voice. "I did it so I could finally move on completely. As long as that debt existed between us, I was still connected to you somehow. I was still the woman you hurt. Paying it off was me closing that chapter of my life forever." "I understand," I said quietly, "and I hope you know that I—" "Norbert," she interrupted gently, "you don't need to explain anything or apologize anymore. I've forgiven you already. Not because you deserve my forgiveness, but because holding onto all that anger was hurting me way more than it was hurting you. I've built a really good life now. I'm happy. I'm successful. I'm everything you said I could never become, and that's more than enough for me." Are you seeing anyone?" I asked, immediately regretting asking such a stupid question. She smiled, a genuine smile this time. "Yes, actually. His name is Michael. He's a professor of economics. We met at a conference in South Africa last year. He's incredibly kind and brilliant, and he thinks I'm extraordinary exactly as I am." Those words cut deep, but they were supposed to. "I'm really glad," I said, and I actually meant it. "You deserve someone who truly sees you." "Yes," Lillian said simply, "I do." She started to walk away, then turned back around. "Norbert, can I tell you something?" "Of course." "That day you came to my office, when you saw what I had become, part of me wanted you to be completely devastated. I wanted you to feel the exact same pain I felt when you told me I was nothing. I wanted revenge so badly." My heart sank. But when I actually saw you sitting there in my office, so broken and terrified, I realized something important. You were already living with the consequences of your own choices. You'd lost your company, your money, your pride. But more than that, you'd lost the ability to recognize real value until it was already gone forever. You were going to spend the rest of your entire life seeing me on magazine covers and in newspapers, knowing that you had me and you threw me away like garbage. That was revenge enough for me. She reached out and touched my arm gently, just for a second. "I hope you've learned to really see people, Norbert. Actually see them. Not for what they can do for you or how they make you look to others, but for who they truly are as human beings. Because that's the only way you'll ever build anything in life that actually lasts." Then she walked away, disappearing into the crowd of successful people who saw her value clearly, who appreciated her brilliance, who knew exactly how extraordinary she was and always had been. I stood there for a long time, just staring at the empty space where she'd been standing, and I realized right then that this was my ending, not revenge or reconciliation or redemption, just understanding. Understanding that I'd been given something precious and rare, and I crushed it with my own hands because I thought I deserved something better. Understanding that the woman I called ordinary was always extraordinary. I was just way too blind and arrogant to see it. Some people spend their whole lives searching desperately for success, never realizing they're standing on the shoulders of the people who truly loved them. I was one of those people. And by the time I finally learned to look down and see who was actually holding me up all along, they were already gone. I think about Lillian all the time now, not with regret exactly, though there's plenty of that weighing on me, but with this kind of sad gratitude. She taught me the most important lesson I'll ever learn in my life, that people are not stepping stones to your success. They're not supporting characters in your personal story. They're complete human beings with their own dreams and power and unlimited potential. And if you're lucky enough to have someone who loves you when you're nobody, who supports you when you're just starting to build something, who believes in you when literally no one else does. You hold onto them tight. You cherish them. You never, ever let them go. I didn't learn that lesson in time to save my marriage, but I learned it eventually, and now I try my absolute best to live it every single day. Sometimes late at night when I can't sleep, I wonder what life would have been like if I'd actually seen Lillian for who she really was. If I'd supported her dreams the same way she supported mine. If we'd built our success together as partners instead of me leaving her behind in the dust. We could have been completely unstoppable together. We could have had everything: love, success, true partnership, mutual respect, real power. But I chose pride over love, ambition over loyalty, my ego over her heart, and I paid the price for it. The last time I saw Lillian was at another business event about 6 months ago. She was there with Michael, her hand in his, laughing at something he said to her. She looked genuinely, deeply happy. When she noticed me across the room, she gave me a small nod and a slight smile. Not friendly exactly, but not hostile either. Just acknowledgement. Two people who used to know each other once. Two people whose lives went in completely different directions. I nodded back and turned away. That's all we are now. All we'll ever be again. And maybe that's perfectly okay. Maybe some stories don't get happy endings wrapped in a bow. Maybe some mistakes are simply too big to ever fix. Maybe some people come into your life specifically to teach you hard lessons about who you really are and who you desperately need to become, and then they leave, and that's the entire point of them being there at all. I learned my lesson. I became a better person because of it, but I became that better person way too late for her to see it, way too late for it to matter to her at all. That's my story. That's how I lost absolutely everything because I refused to see the value in the person who loved me most in this world. That's how my ex-wife became the silent power who shut down my entire company, not out of cruelty or revenge, but out of simple justice. That's how I learned the hard way that ordinary people don't actually exist. There are only people whose extraordinary nature you're too blind and arrogant to see. If you're watching this right now and you have someone in your life who supports you, who believes in you completely, who sacrifices things for you, see them. Really, truly see them. Don't wait until they're sitting across from you in a corner office somewhere, holding your entire future in their hands. Don't wait until they're already gone. See them right now. Appreciate them right now. Love them right now, today. Because I promise you this. The pain of losing someone you took for granted is a pain that never fully goes away. Never. It sits in your chest like a heavy stone. It whispers to you late at night when you're lying there alone in the dark. It reminds you constantly that you had something real and beautiful, and you destroyed it with your own hands because you thought you were too important, too ambitious, too destined for greatness to be held back by someone you called ordinary. But here's the truth I learned way too late. The person you think is holding you back might actually be the only thing keeping you from falling completely. And when you push them away, when you finally do fall, you'll look up from rock bottom and see them standing way up at the top, shining like the star they always were. And you'll realize with crushing clarity that they were never the weight dragging you down at all. You were the weight dragging them down. And the exact moment they were finally free of you, they soared higher than you ever imagined possible. That's my truth. That's my painful lesson. That's my story. Before you leave, I want to ask you something personal. Have you ever had someone in your life who believed in you when absolutely no one else did? Someone who supported your dreams no matter what? Leave a comment right now and tell me about them. And if they're still in your life today, stop watching this video and go tell them you appreciate them. Right now. Don't wait another second. Don't assume they already know. Tell them out loud. And if this story touched something in you, if it made you feel anything at all, do me this favor. Like this video right now, subscribe to this channel and share it with someone who really needs to hear this message. These stories matter so much. Your comments matter. Your shares matter. You matter. Thank you for watching until the very end. Thank you for listening to my story. And please remember this, the people in your life aren't ordinary. None of them are. You just have to open your eyes wide enough to really see them.